would really like to make a video about therapy and about how it's kind of inherently predatory, in my opinion, and about how most people shouldn't either rely on therapy, or most people don't really need therapy because you can actually help yourself and heal yourself. So, I've gone to therapy, and I've seen probably, this is years ago, okay, this is a while ago. I've probably seen in my lifetime 7 to 8 therapists, okay? That might be a little bit high, but I've seen anywhere from 4 to 8 therapists, definitely more than 4, somewhere around there, okay? And I am really of the belief that most people are generally okay. I'm talking about most people in civilian life, right? I would say that many of them are okay. There are people who have really severe problems mentally, who have really severe, anxiety. Such people definitely exist, and such people definitely need help. So, one moment. I would honestly argue that most people, like I just named, most normal civilians, don't actually need therapy. I would argue that many of them don't actually benefit from therapy. If you want to give it a go, if you really feel that therapy is the right step for you, then by all means, go ahead and get it. But I'm saying, as an experienced woman within the medical industry, I always call it an industry because it is entirely money motivated. It's not health motivated, it's not wellness motivated, it's money motivated. Period. I just don't advise it. I don't advise therapy for a lot of reasons. So, I think that therapy is, for the most part, inherently predatory, or generally predatory, or I guess we wouldn't have to call it predatory, we can call it something else. I'm trying to think of a word or a phrase to describe it. I think it's kind of overindulgent, honestly. I don't really agree with people going to see someone, a medical professional, quote unquote, right, and telling them all their personal business. I don't really agree with someone having someone's personal information like that. Because when you go to therapy, you're really encouraged to just tell this therapist, like, so many things about you, so many things about your past, so many things about your family, so many things about how you're feeling, about how you dealt with this, how you dealt with that, etc., etc. It's just like, they have so much personal information about you. And I don't know if y'all know this, but BetterHelp actually was kind of, they had a, what's the word? There's a controversy with BetterHelp that the therapists, quote unquote, working with BetterHelp aren't real therapists, or they're not qualified. That the information that a lot of people gave them was sold to third parties. And that's always something you have to be aware of when you're on the internet, right? Is a third party or a fourth or a fifth or a friggin' nth party going to get your information? You need to be wary of that fact. And especially when you're dealing with vulnerable people who, some of them probably actually really do need therapy. I am more for therapy when, like I said, it's an extreme case. Like some people would do in fact have very extreme problems and they need to be seen by a professional about it. That makes more sense to me than like your average person who maybe has some anxiety and hang-ups about their past and insecurities. Okay? I think that weirdly, therapy is kind of, I feel like it's attempting at being spiritual, honestly. And a lot of the people actually see psychics or get their tarot cards done, and they kind of see that as therapeutic. And honestly, I think that they're kind of head of the same beast, psychics and therapists, honestly. I'm not against either. I'm not completely against either, but I'm just saying, like, you should take both with a grain or maybe a boulder of salt. Because they're just not perfect systems. Okay? Let me tell you about tarot, because I've done tarot readings, and I would still do tarot readings, and I enjoy it. It's fun. And I do think that it's a decent way to get ideas about a person, but let me tell you how I do tarot readings, okay? It is a fact that people can take advantage of others when doing tarot readings. Because they can, in fact, manipulate the cards, and they can, in fact, cause someone to pick a specific card, and then maybe the person doesn't like the meaning of that card, and then the psychic or tarot reader can be like, oh, well, if you don't like that, well, just pay me $20 more, and then we can, pay me $20 more, and you can pick another card, Okay, that's true. That is a fact. I always aimed to never do that within my tarot readings. But let me tell you how I do tarot readings, okay? And you want a tarot reading from me, fam, at any point, and you meet me and you want that to happen, I'm very happy to oblige. But listen, what I always have people do for tarot readings, check. Not right now, bub, please. I give people the cards. I give them the entire deck, okay? And I say, here, you look through this. Go ahead and look at every card. And then I have them do that. They look at every card, right? And the actual reason I have them do that is so I can read their behavior as they're looking through the cards. Okay, you can actually observe a fair amount about someone as they're looking through a deck of tarot cards, okay? And what's really interesting to me, I've been doing tarot a fair amount of time, is that a lot of the time, people will pick a card. So they're looking at all the cards. They physically look at all the cards face up, right? And they'll pull out one card, show it to me, and be like, this card is really cool. And then I ask them to shuffle the deck, because I don't want them to think that I am manipulating their reading. They shuffle the deck, the other person shuffles the deck, and then they pick a card from the deck that they shuffled. And what's interesting about the thing I said, they pick a card and show it to me and say, this one's really cool. 9 times out of 10, they will pick that card from the deck after having selected it previously. Okay? Something you have to remember is that the ability to predict the outcome affects the outcome. This is a fact that's been scientifically proven. But I think that people tend to do that because, like, they wanted to pick that card. And when you want something like that, then you're more likely to get it. Anyway, more often than not, the way that this person read the card, looked at the cards, shuffled the deck, and behaved in that way, the cards that they end up physically picking, show me a lot about their behavior. It gives me a lot to look at about their behavior. But for that matter, more often than not, the cards also reflect their behavior. Like if they're hesitant, the cards reflect that. If they're not hesitant, they're doing it too fast, the cards reflect that. If they're, nervous or whatever, the cards reflect that, etc., etc. Okay? But I also know what the cards fucking mean. Anyway, I'm just saying, why can't a therapist do the same thing? Just with different methods. So, my point is, with the therapist thing, is that I think people want this spiritual connection with a therapist. And the way that people often talk about their therapist is kind of, reminiscent of religion to me. People will be like, oh, my therapist says, da-da-da, or like, oh, I was having a session with my therapist, and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. I don't think it's wrong to think of your therapist as like a, magical being that can help you with your problems. That's cool, but isn't that how people also think of psychics? Yeah. You kind of have to look into the origins of therapy. If you look into the origins of therapy, if you look into Freud, he did in fact figure out that if you talk about your problems, it lessens them. But that's we don't need Freud to tell us that. It's just kind of a fact. If you explain yourself, if you really examine your feelings, you can better deal with your problems, especially if you say them out loud. Okay? And this is why I don't fully agree with therapy in practice, because the things that your therapist finds out about you or talks to you about, it's you likely very well know what those issues are yourself before you see the therapist. You likely already know what your problems are, and your therapist does help you to address them. Cool, that's great. But you don't need a therapist to do that. Okay? You don't. You don't need this, extraneous person who you have to physically go see, or you have to, make an appointment with and talk to on the phone. You don't need that person to identify your problems, or identify your weaknesses, or identify what's going on with you. I don't think that's necessary. Okay? I'm gonna sip water, hold on. Technically it's tonic water. It's not just regular water. God, I love tonic water. It's so good. When I was really struggling with the things that I was struggling with, first of all, I'm not saying that what I was struggling with was nothing, okay? It was significant to me, but I'm saying I'm not dealing with extreme problems compared to a lot of other people. I'm not dealing with, complex PTSD. I'm not dealing with having been abused extensively. I'm not dealing with, schizophrenia, okay? Those are pretty extreme problems, and they are not my problems, okay? So, that's what I mean, is that I don't think people like me who have some general problems that probably everyone has had at some point in their life needs therapy. Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't fucking know your life. But when I was having a lot of anxiety, I wasn't eating enough meat. And only one of the therapists I ever saw asked me what I was eating. She asked me, I think she asked me if I was drinking coffee. And I told her, yeah, I was drinking a lot of coffee every week. And she's like, okay, well, that actually increases your anxiety. But I'm saying, therapists should be asking people about their diets, and they should be checking whether or not their clients or patients or whatever the fuck you want to call them are eating meat. Because meat is essential to brain health. So only one of the 7 or 8 therapists I saw in my entire life actually asked me a question in line with, what are you eating? When it should be literally one of the first questions you ask someone. Anyway, therapists also I said that people think of therapists as these, magical beings that can just magically name their problems and da-da. Therapists actually think of themselves that way. Okay, I'm not exaggerating. They think that if we just identify some of those problems da-da-da-da-da. I don't want to hear that shit. And yeah, cool, I'm glad you have your MA in psychology or whatever the fuck, but that doesn't always matter. Sorry, it doesn't. It doesn't always matter. I think what people really want is religion or spirituality. I really do. I really think that people are really craving that. A lot of times they mistakenly conflate that with therapy. But anyway. Here are some ways to heal or help yourself that are not therapy. I know I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again and again and again, because most people fucking need to do it, okay? Or most people would benefit from doing it, is video diaries. I will die on this hill, okay? If you have an issue that's really bothering you, or you have a habit that's really bothering you, what will in fact benefit you is videotaping yourself, taking a video of yourself, talking about the issue. Talk about it, okay? Talk about it on a fucking video, and then watch the video. You don't have to share it, but honestly, I advise you to definitely not share it, for that matter, because it's your own private business about you. And watch yourself talking about it. If you're really hung up on something from your childhood, talk about it in a video. If you're really hung up on just anything that's bothering you, or if you have habits that really bother you, OCD. If you have OCD habits that are imposing upon your life, talk about it on video, and then watch yourself, okay? And watching yourself say I do these rituals because da 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 da. Watching yourself say that will do something to you that no therapist can ever give you. Okay? And that's why I also use this device that I'm using right now. It's called a voice recorder, and I record my voice and I talk about things that I care about, and then I listen to it. And I'm listening to my own voice. Okay, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I hate listening to myself on a voice recorder. Well, get over it. Like, just get over it. If you really want to help yourself, you can help yourself. Or watch yourself on a video. And I've talked to other people who like, who are like, oh, like, I would just be really critical of my appearance if I did a video. Cool, then shoot it in the dark. It doesn't have to be a perfect shot of you by any means. You know, but also like why you need to just analyze your own behavior. Analyze your own fucking behavior. You don't need a therapist to do it. Be like, why am I so critical of my appearance? Be like, why do I hate listening to myself on a voice recording so much? Be like, why am I supposed to even thinking about this? Like, think the fuck about it. And I definitely also encourage people to write about their problems. I know that a lot of people, you know, maybe aren't great at writing, or maybe they don't really get much out of it, and that's okay. But that's what I'm saying. You should take a video of yourself. Listen, you don't even have to do that. You should have a friend. You should have a family member. You should have someone in your life who you really care about, who you trust, that you can talk about these issues with. It doesn't have to be a therapist. Okay? And guys, don't make it your girlfriend or your wife. I've had men do that to me where, like, you know, they talk to me about something in confidence, and then they just suddenly think I'm their personal therapist, you know? And it's like, don't, like, trauma dump your shit on me when I don't want you to, you know? Anyway, I'm just saying, like, we are all capable of helping and healing ourselves. We are all capable of, you know, maybe talking to a friend about your issues. Sometimes I actually talk to a friend. She and I sometimes text. We message each other about, you know, things that are bothering us. Not all the time, but occasionally we'll be like, oh, such and such is bothering me, and we'll text about it. So you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to talk about it. But I do actually encourage you to talk about it, because it is good for us to talk about things that are bothering us. And you don't fucking need a therapist in order to do that, is my point.